Future and the Past, the Trilogy, by Francisco Zaragoza Esbrí. Second novel, A Past in the Future. Chapter 1, Jersey City, Friday, December 26, 2042. David gazed at the full moon through the window of the main living room of Jennifer's apartment. The Earth satellite offered a spectacular view. It seemed to be floating above the skyscrapers of Manhattan. "What are you thinking?" Jennifer asked. "You know I've always been drawn to the moon. I've often wondered, what's it doing up there? And more importantly, how long has it been there? You're a physicist. You should know the answers. I'm not interested in official answers." "I intend to go a little further," David confessed. "True. I can't deny that," Jennifer admitted. "I can't help it. I'm a nonconformist rebel. I can't lose my essence, neither your essence nor your youth. It's an irrefutable fact that the years don't pass for you." "They don't pass, nor do I truly live them," David said. "You've become an escape artist," Jennifer opined. "Do you really think that about me?" he asked. "You were born in 1968. You should be almost 75 now. But you're only 34. When I met you in 2029, I was 5 years younger than you. But now, I'm already 7 years older than you. How could you explain all this to me without your much maligned physics? Current physics doesn't have the answers I need." "What are you planning to do?" Jennifer asked. "On Monday, January 5th, I'm going to talk to Uncle Sam. I hope he can help me." "Do you trust that computer that much?" she continued. "I trust Uncle Sam can explain to me the real reason the Rainbow Travelers disbanded." "Why don't you ask Glenn Denvers directly?" Jennifer said. "The world of science is full of secrets. And you think Uncle Sam is going to tell you everything? Surely someone has reprogrammed him so he doesn't go too far in his answers. But that someone doesn't know a very important fact. That someone doesn't know that I have a backdoor to access all his information. And aren't you afraid that he's been completely reprogrammed?" "No, because I burned that access code into his DNA. I programmed it into the kernel module of the operating system." "I understand, then, that if you walk through that back door, you'll have no limits," Jennifer said. "No one could have summed it up better than you," David said. "Your flattering side oozes falsehood from all four sides." "Why do there have to be only four sides?" David protested. "Every minute that passes, I understand more why you prefer Uncle Sam as your interlocutor," Jennifer argued. "I need answers, Jennifer," David repeated. "Your daughter is thrilled with your presence," Jennifer said, changing the course of the conversation. "Little Evelyn is a beauty." "She's as sweet and intelligent as her mother," David affirmed. "And as dangerously fearless as her father," Jennifer said. "Do you want to know what she told me before bed?" "What did she say to you?" David asked, very intrigued. "She confessed to me that she's desperately looking forward to the day she can meet her grandmothers." David hugged Jennifer, facing the window. The moon was floating free again like a soap bubble. David looked into Jennifer's eyes and asked, "Do you want your daughter to grant her wish?" Chapter 2. New York, Monday, January 5, 2043. David parked the car and knocked on the Denver's door, rapping in a prearranged sequence. "You still remember," Martha said as she opened the door. "I don't think I'll ever forget it," David replied. "By the way, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for what you've done for Jennifer and Evelyn during my absence. Jennifer is my best friend, and Evelyn is my goddaughter. We didn't do anything that wasn't ours. Uncle Sam is waiting for you. He's all yours. I have to go. Remember, you're home," Martha said. "Hello, old friend," David said to the image on the screen. "Hello, David. I've sensed your presence and recognized your body odor. Place your hand in the green circle to identify yourself." David scrupulously followed Uncle Sam's order. Then he sat down in front of the big screen. "Let's go back to the day of my return in 2001, David asked. "My records place that date on March 9, 2030. Uncle Sam replied. "How many documents do you have dated between that day and the 21st of that same month?" David wanted to know. 17, the macrocomputer replied. "How many of them contain a reference to me?" 14. Uncle Sam replied again. "Now, I want you to cross-reference the information in those 14 documents and look for inconsistencies," David asked. "There are no relevant inconsistencies," the macrocomputer reported after 2 minutes. "Define relevant," David asked. "Noteworthy, important, outstanding, distinguished, remarkable, extraordinary. Do you want me to continue?" No need. We'll find another way. David placed his right hand on the screen and entered the code to activate the back door. Welcome, Goliath, said Uncle Sam. Hello, brother, David replied. I love that you call me that, the macrocomputer confessed. Wait a moment, Goliath, he added shortly after. I need to fix your body odor mismatch. I'll modify the OH radical in the secondary synthesis. It's done. Will the modification you just made leave any trace? None. I've already deleted it, confirmed Uncle Sam. I want you to double-check how many documents you now have between the two dates indicated above, David requested. 20, replied Uncle Sam quickly. Who signs the 3 new documents? They are all signed by Patrick Emmerichs. I'll proceed to look for inconsistencies with the other 17, said Uncle Sam. This time the response was almost immediate. There's only one, and it's contradictory, said Uncle Sam. Howard Moore's report of March 9th claims to have directed the coordinate beam to ensure David returns to our time. However, Patrick Emmerich's report states that appropriate measures must be taken to prevent David from returning to our time. I just discovered someone was wearing a mask, David said. Any further requests, Goliath? Asked Uncle Sam. Why do you have all the organization's documentation? When the Rainbow Travelers dissolved, all the documentation on the 15 active members flooded my memory. Did you say 15? Asked David. Dr. Newman replaced the missing Scott Evans. The result was 8 votes in favor of dissolution and 7 against. This is all very strange and makes no sense. I need to think about it some more. Send all the documentation to Goliath's email. No problem, replied Uncle Sam. Will there be a record of the shipment? David wanted to know. The email I maintain with my brothers is private and isn't stored in the system. How many other brothers do you have besides me? David asked. Only one, and his code name is Miller. Can I access Miller's documentation? No, and he can't access yours either, Uncle Sam informed him. Could you provide me with the updated list of officially authorized users in the system? I'll send it to you along with the documentation you asked for. Thanks, bro. Session over, David said. I love it. I'm logging out with Goliath, confirmed Uncle Sam. David drove back to Jersey City. He thought Glenn's subtlety in choosing Miller as the username for his backdoor was brilliant. Chapter 3. Jersey City, Wednesday, January 14, 2043. The list of authorized users on Uncle Sam was short. Only 7 names appeared on it. Leroy, Martha, David, Poseidon, Da Vinci, Hercules, and Penelope. The first 3 were very clear, and the 4 who had chosen to hide their identities behind historical or mythological names couldn't be strangers either, because their presence in Leroy's basement was necessary to interact with Uncle Sam. David decided to put aside the topic of users and focused on Patrick Emmerich's letter of March 21, 2030. After reading it 3 times, he asked himself, why does Patrick call me the transgressive traveler? I always thought the Light of Light had a mole inside, but I never imagined it could be Patrick. David found out that Patrick had died in the fall of 2039, after being bedridden for 2 years. Osteoarthritis had taken its toll on both of his legs, and he had become a despot to everyone around him. David focused on designing his strategy to achieve 3 main objectives. The first and most important was to be able to interact with Uncle Sam without being present in the Denver basement. It was a fact that remote access to computers was almost as old as computing itself. However, those with a capacitive screen equipped with an analytical and intelligent interface were almost inaccessible. David needed to identify the input and output ports that Uncle Sam used to communicate. To do this, he sent an email to Uncle Sam using the username Goliath, requesting information Uncle Sam didn't have. The email was intended to inject a spyware program that would self-destruct in 30 minutes. While Uncle Sam processed the requested query, the spyware sent David the information he needed. When David learned the input communication port, he sent Goliath's access code. The response was immediate. Where are you, brother? I know it's you, but I can't recognize your fingerprints or your scent. Uncle Sam said. Hello, brother. I'm afraid you're going to have to solve these 2 little problems from now on, David said. No problem, Goliath. I'll send 2 positive acknowledgments every time you log in remotely. Thank you, brother, David replied. I hope all our conversations remain secret, he added. I already told you there's no trace of them left, Uncle Sam confirmed. I want you to send me all the reports in Patrick Emmerich's and Scott Evans's folders, David requested. I'll search for them and send them to you. One more thing. I need to know if you have another user online when I log in. I don't want to share you, bro. Understood. If you ever log in and I have another active connection, I'll respond with the word bastard. As you would say, processed and stored. David said. Are you imitating me? Uncle Sam boasted. Between brothers, it's impossible not to copy each other's things, David clarified. I love it when you treat me like that, Uncle Sam emphasized. See you next time, bro, David said in farewell. Connection with Goliath closed. Uncle Sam reported. David breathed a sigh of relief. He had achieved the first objective and put the second on track by requesting Patrick and Scott's documentation. The third and final objective was to discover the identities of the 4 Uncle Sam users hidden behind their aliases. The arrival of Jennifer and Evelyn kidnapped him from his thoughts. What were you doing, Dad? The little girl asked. Weigh possibilities, David replied. What does weigh mean? Evelyn asked again. Something like value or consider, David replied again. I don't know what consider means either, Mom, Evelyn said, looking at her mother for help. But you do know what value means, don't you? Jennifer said to her daughter. Yes, Mom, little Evelyn replied. Well, you'll understand that your father's answer is that he was thinking about our future, Jennifer explained. How interesting, the little girl said. And when will I be able to do the same? It'll still take a few years, David said. How many? The girl persisted. That will depend on you, David replied. In that case, it will be a few, very few, Evelyn assured her, to her parents' surprise. Chapter 4. Jersey City, Monday, July 20, 2054. The test hasn't yielded the results I expected. I must have forgotten something or made a mistake. I have to make sure the conditions are more favorable. I can't afford any more mistakes. The tests can't go on forever. Time is running out. But, for nothing in the world, will I give up on what I believe to be an act of pure justice. Chapter 5. New York, Monday, February 16, 2043. David had identified 3 of the 4 users using pseudonyms to access Uncle Sam. Patrick Emmerich's was Poseidon. Howard Moore was the owner of Da Vinci. And, surprisingly, Frederick Newman was Hercules. So, all he needed to do was find out who Penelope was. He had also been able to find out, with some disappointment, that neither Hercules nor Penelope had any documents on file. Therefore, David decided to visit Glenn Denver's. I have a ton of questions, David said. So do we, Glenn replied. I suggest we alternate shifts. I think it's in both our best interest to accept this deal. You can go first if you wish, Glenn added. From what you said, I take it we're on different sides, David said. And I take it this is your first question? Glenn asked. That's fine by me, David agreed. Well, my first answer is yes, although I want to clarify that just because they're different doesn't mean they're mutually exclusive. Have you already decided when you'll visit Howard Moore? Glenn asked next. Not really, but it's most likely within the next 6 months, David added. When did you find out about Patrick Emmerich's betrayal? David asked abruptly, opening the second round. I can't consider Patrick a traitor, Glenn replied, very surprised. And I can't accept your consideration as a valid answer to my question, David said. I'll try to answer it as best I can, Glenn began. Patrick always tailored his mandate to the majority sentiments. I think your sudden departure overwhelmed him, and the fact that Scott didn't return forced him to dissolve the association. I tried to prevent that by bringing in Newman, but I suppose you already know we lost 8-7. Because of Emmerich's vote, David clarified, bringing up the letter of March 21, 2030. It doesn't make any sense, Glenn opined after reading the letter. Were you unaware of this document? David asked. Of course, and I highly doubt it's true. It seems to me like a biased leak that someone managed to sneak in when all the file folders were dumped in Uncle Sam. Who controlled the dump? David insisted. Newman and I did it myself, but we only did it at the folder level and the number of files in each folder. We didn't read or review all the documents one by one, Glenn Denver specified. Well, Someone substituted one document for another so the discrepancy wouldn't be noticeable. David tried to admit. Can I make a suggestion? Glenn asked. David nodded. Howard died in mid-2037. Patrick fell ill around that time. When you go to talk to Howard, talk to Patrick too. I think I'll choose February 2037. That way I'll find them both in top form, David said. Sounds perfect. Do you want anything else, David? Glenn said. I need information on the new techniques developed during my absence, David asked. I'll have Newman send everything to you through Uncle Sam. Thanks. Just one more question, David said. Do you know who uses the pseudonym Penelope on Uncle Sam? You'd better ask Jennifer that, Glenn Denvers replied surprisingly. Chapter 6. Jersey City, Wednesday, February 18, 2043. The only two references to Penelope that Uncle Sam had were written and filed in Howard Moore's folder. The first was dated September 23, 2033. The text referred to a veiled request from Penelope. The second was dated February 21, 2034. This time the text was much more explicit. The parameters for a jump to the past were set, with the departure scheduled for Saturday, March 11, 2034 at 9:00 a.m. and the destination of October 20, 2000 at 4:00 p.m. with a return deadline of 11:00 p.m. In addition, special mention was made of avoiding the risk of double presence. David was reluctant to accept what was already more than obvious. Why hasn't she told me? He wondered, his mind reeling. The arrival of little Evelyn caught his attention. Hello, Dad. Have you been working hard? A lot. I haven't been working, but I've discovered some very interesting things. And how have you been doing? David asked. Today they explained the theory of relativity to us. And have you learned anything? David asked. Not many, but I've bitten my tongue when time travel was mentioned. Evelyn explained. Why did you bite your tongue? David wanted to know. Because I promised Mom, and I always keep my promises, the little girl said the moment Jennifer appeared. What's going on here? The newcomer asked. We were talking about promises, Mom. About the one I made you about time travel. Some are kept, and others are blown away. David took the opportunity to emphasize the situation. If it's okay with you, we'll continue this conversation after dinner with a nice glass of bourbon in hand, Jennifer said. But I can't be there, Evelyn protested unsuccessfully. It was 6 p.m. when Jennifer took the floor. Where do you want me to start? Where it's easiest for you, David replied. I was desperate. Waking up from surgery and not seeing you by my side weighed heavily on me for a long time. The fear of never seeing you again gripped my brain, she confessed, getting up to look for more tissues. Do I mean that much to you? David asked. You know you meant everything to me, Jennifer affirmed. And Evelyn, didn't she count in your plans? David questioned. She meant everything to me, too. She was so little, but she helped me so much. I couldn't have made it without her. I told her everything, and I could have sworn she understood. I thought I was going to die when, at the end of 2032, Howard told us that your return would be delayed for a little over 10 years. I broke down. That's when Glenn and Martha told me the secret that opened the door to hope. Surprise me, David invited, stroking Jennifer's hair. They told me they intended to travel back to September 11, 2001, hours before the attacks. Do you know if they made the jump? David asked. Yes, Jennifer replied succinctly. And what happened? Why didn't they? David asked. I can't answer that, Jennifer interrupted. I'm sure when the time comes, they'll be happy to answer all your questions. Why hasn't anyone told me anything? I don't quite understand the reason why. Let me explain. Jennifer interrupted again. I'm just asking for 1/10 of the patience I had with you that December afternoon in 2029, in that Irish pub. Touché, David agreed, sealing his lips. Martha explained to me that Newman had redesigned his system and needed the help of a cybernetics expert to solve a problem. I immediately offered my help, and by the end of February 2033, we were able to identify and solve the problem. I've read the basic core of that system. Newman sent it to me through Uncle Sam, but I didn't know it was you who solved it. Glenn and Martha traveled and returned in July 2033. I'll open parentheses to let you know they'll be coming for dinner next Saturday, she announced. On Saturday, you'll hear a mind-blowing story that seems more like it's starring the indomitable Leroy than the thoughtful Professor Glenn Denvers. Will I have to wait 3 days to learn all the details of an adventure you yourself just described as mind-blowing? A promise is a promise. Wasn't that precisely what you were talking about with your daughter? Touché again, David finally admitted. Martha recommended I speak with Howard more. I made my first visit in September 2033. Howard gave me endless advice. He told me to think about Evelyn. He forced me to agree to a period of reflection. He assured me that he would help me afterward if I remained determined. They arranged for my jump to take place on Saturday, March 11, 2034 at 9:00 a.m. with a destination of Friday, October 20, 2000 at 4:00 p.m. Why did you choose that destination date? David asked. I did it to avoid the risks of double presence. My initial idea was to travel the day before the attacks to warn you. Howard suggested to me that I was already alive that day. My second choice was July 2001, but that didn't work out either. Howard's theological doubts regarding fetal existence made me give up. That's why I went back 9 months to October 20. Where did you make the jump from? I left Glenn and Martha's basement and returned to the same place 7 hours later. With the watch bracelet Newman had designed? David asked. Indeed, Jennifer confirmed. Tell me everything, David asked. I ended up in the same basement. It was very different and messy. I located what he'd recommended and followed his instructions. I tied my hair back and put on my hooded tabard. I walked out onto the street, pretending to limp on my right leg. Oh my God, Jennifer. You were in the middle of the Bronx. That place was very dangerous in 2000. Howard had already warned me about it, repeatedly. He recommended that I follow his instructions carefully. Oh my God. How crazy, David exclaimed again. I went outside and locked the door. Along with that key were the keys to an old Chevrolet. The car was in the right place. I got in and started it. The fuel gauge indicated I was fully loaded. At 4:17 p.m., I was already driving down Amsterdam Avenue. I crossed the Hudson River through the Lincoln Tunnel. I arrived in Jersey City and headed to my parents' house. I knocked, and my father opened the door for me. I introduced myself as a salesperson. It took my mother 2 minutes to leave the kitchen. I took advantage of them to soak up everything around me. The excuse of the creams helped me retain my mother's hands in mine. My heart rate was racing uncontrollably. She noticed and asked me. I replied that it was my first visit and I was nervous. Then I applied cream to her face. It was a wonderful experience. My hair still stands up just remembering it. I said goodbye and got in the car to head to your house. I suppose it was my mother who opened the door for you. Yes, that's right. The sweetness in her eyes captivated me. You arrived at 8:10 p.m. You kissed her coldly and greeted me without looking at me. I was tempted to scold you right there, but you disappeared. That was me, and that's who I was. I'm sorry, but I don't remember anything you're explaining. I asked her if I could give you a sample of the lotion. She told me to give it to her. She promised she'd give it to you later. She did, David answered quickly. And what did you do with the sample? Jennifer asked. Nothing. I suppose I'd leave it in the corner of my bathroom cabinet, David replied. The bottle had a note wrapped around it with instructions. The box had a false bottom with a wristwatch. We thought the note wrapped around the bottle with the text, "Read before use," would catch your attention, Jennifer explained. The text was made up of 40 brief paragraphs. I still remember them all in their correct order. 1. Today is October 20, 2002. Your name is David Goodwill, and you work in Whitehall. 3. Your secret dream is to travel through time. 4. You don't know it, but you've achieved it. 5. We know you and we're your friends. 6. We're sending you this note from the year 2034. 7. The bottle has a false bottom. Open it. 8. Save and memorize the instructions. 9. The bottle was delivered by a traveler. 10. You don't know her, but you will meet her in the future. 11. She will be born on August 8, 2001. 12. Her name will be Jennifer Bailey. 13. On September 8, she will become ill. 14. She will be admitted to Greenville Hospital. 15. You can visit her in room 317. 16. The surgeon will be Dr. Newman. 17. Newman will be your friend in the future. 18. She will be at the hospital on Sunday, the 9th. 19. Send him the bottom part of this note. 20. Don't try to understand it. He will. 21. Jennifer will have black eyes. 22. Her mother will be with her. 23. Something terrible will happen on September 11th. 24. Do not go to work that day under any circumstances. 25. When it happens, you will understand. 26. Take advantage of the confusion that will ensue. 27. Go quickly to the following address. 28. St. Nicholas Avenue and 175th Street. 29. Enter the Church of the Reincarnation. 30. Look for a key under the 5th pew on the right. 31. Go to 575 West 175th Street. 32. Go to the curtain in the outer window. 33. Remove the cord knob. 34. Remove the light bulb from the wall sconce. 35. Insert the removed knob into the light socket. 36. The floor will open. Go down to the basement. 37. Put on the bracelet. 38. Activate it with the red button. 39. Don't send Popey as you're planning. 40. Bring Popey with you. We'll be waiting for you. I admit that if I had read it, I would have followed your instructions, David admitted. If points 14, 15, 16, 18, 21, and 22 turned out to be true, I would have followed the rest to the letter. But no, you didn't read the note, Jennifer said, smiling. I didn't even open the box of lotion my mother gave me. How was your return? David wanted to know. Bumpy, Jennifer replied. It was 2 p.m. when I was driving up St. Nicholas Avenue. I had plenty of time. What happened? David asked, very intrigued. I parked without difficulty, but everything went haywire in 2 seconds. I heard a voice say, "Don't get out of the car, honey." I turned around and saw 4 guys blocking the doors. I didn't think twice and backed out. I think I even dragged one of them. Oh my God, Jennifer. David sighed helplessly. I looked at my wristwatch. The display showed 28 minutes and 11 seconds remaining, and I was moving away from my goal. I turned left and drove up to 178th Street. I stopped without turning off the ignition. I looked in the rearview mirror. No one. No one. The wristwatch's display showed 21 minutes and 33 seconds. When I readjusted the rearview mirror, and I realized my mistake. The tabard and hood were on the back seat. The wristwatch showed 17 minutes and 9 seconds. Luckily, I have you here now, and I know you made it. If not, I could have a heart attack, David said. I decided to take a chance. I drive down to 174th Street. I tied my hair back and put on my tabard and hood. I glanced at my wristwatch. The remaining time display showed exactly 12 minutes. I started walking, limping on my right leg. The digits started flashing as I passed the Church of Reincarnation. 7 minutes, 13 seconds, 12 seconds, 11 seconds. The countdown had begun. I just needed to cross the street and get inside. 20 meters away, I saw them running toward me. I closed my eyes and gritted my teeth. I heard one of them say, "Leave that old man alone and let's go after that whore." I was shaking all over. It took me an eternity to put the key in the lock. When I closed the door, I saw one of them still staring at me. I looked back at the display. 1 minute and 14 seconds. I couldn't waste any time. I reached the basement and pressed the red button on my wristwatch when the display showed only 43 seconds left. Glenn, Martha, and Howard were waiting for me. I hugged them and cried for several minutes. I can't judge you, but I can't forgive Howard. The decision was mine alone, Jennifer clarified. But it was all for nothing because I didn't read the note, David said. Oh, no. I can't admit that to you. I was able to see my parents. I shook my father's hand and stroked my mother's face. And mine, David recalled. It's true. Meeting your mother was an incredible experience. But I admit that the most frustrating thing was your behavior. If Evelyn ever behaves the way you did, Jennifer began. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I've changed, haven't I? David affirmed. You better have, Jennifer declared. Chapter 7. Jersey City, Saturday, February 21, 2043. Jennifer's story had struck a chord with David. Jennifer had shown she loved him as much as he loved her. The length of the leap years had been resolved, but the 7 hours might be too short. David decided he would talk to Glenn about it after dinner. My godmother and Uncle Glenn are coming tonight, Evelyn said. I suppose you'll let me stay after dinner today. Sure, honey, David replied to his daughter. Today you can stay until the bourbon party starts. But that's not fair, the little girl protested. Tomorrow is Sunday, and I don't have to go to school, she added. You'll have dinner with us and have a chat until 11. Can I ask everyone a question, Daddy? Whatever you want, you have my word, David assured her. On second thought, I'll ask you 2 questions, Evelyn suggested. Granted, David agreed. I heard your conversation, Jennifer said. I'm open to asking a question too, but you'll have to ask Glenn and Martha for permission. I still have a lot to learn as a father, David admitted to Jennifer when they were alone. You're doing very well, but you're falling too easily for her charms. Come and help me finish preparing dinner. Dinner was turning out to be exquisite, but it was moving at a slow pace for little Evelyn. There were just over 20 minutes left until David's set time, and they hadn't even started on dessert yet. If you help me clear the plates and bring out dessert, I'll negotiate an extension with your father, Jennifer suggested. I'm in favor of Evelyn staying past midnight, Martha said. Evelyn smiled and helped with everything that was asked of her. When the desserts were on the table, David, with Jennifer's consent, said, Your time has come, Evelyn. I'd like to ask your permission to ask you a question, the little girl told the guests. Don't let it be too difficult, Martha said. In that case, I'll start with you, the little girl said. Go ahead, the guest agreed. I've been studying the twin paradox, and I don't understand why the twin who travels into space is younger than his brother when he returns to Earth. We're off to a strong start, David exclaimed. Let's see how you get through this, Martha, Glenn added. What do you know about the speed of light? Martha asked again. It reaches almost 300 kilometers per second, the little girl replied. Have you done exercises with a magnet and a piece of metal? Yes. The closer they are, the harder it is to keep them apart, Evelyn replied. Well, with the speed of light, everything resizes and time passes more slowly. Did you understand anything? Glenn asked. I understood everything, the little girl replied proudly. Now it's your turn, Uncle Glenn. What is transmultiversality? Transmultiversality defends the idea that everything in our universe is in motion and that it is impossible to assume anything is constant and invariable, Glenn explained. It's a difficult concept to maintain because it would involve leaving the definition of space and time in a vicious circle. I take it your advice is that I shouldn't pay attention to it. In the world of science, nothing should ever be ruled out. My advice is to focus on what Martha explained to you. Thank you, Evelyn replied. That's enough for today, young lady, David interrupted. It's already past midnight, and bed is waiting for you. You'll have to postpone the question to your mother and mine. But when? Evelyn tried to protest. Today you have received a great deal of information that you need to assimilate and process. Good night, darling, David said. Good night, everyone, the young woman said, giving each of them a kiss. Good night, everyone, the young woman said, giving each of them a kiss. Good night, everyone, the young woman said, giving each of them a kiss. Good night, everyone, the young woman said, giving each of them a kiss. Chapter 8. Jersey City, early Sunday morning, February 22, 2043. The withdrawal of the surprising Evelyn allowed for the inauguration of the long-awaited four-way bourbon meeting. Explain everything to me, David asked. That's our intention, Glenn replied. Why did you choose the date of September 11, 2001? We chose it for 3 reasons. First, to avoid the risks of double presence. The second we could describe as scientific curiosity. And third, to try to talk to you and prevent you from going to work in Whitehall, Glenn explained. We left at 12 noon on Saturday, July 23, 2033. Martha began. We appeared in the same basement. The clock on the wall read 6:22 a.m. We went outside and located Howard Chevrolet. We got in and headed south along St. Nicholas Avenue. We had planned to leave the car in a parking lot near the Empire State Building, Martha concluded. We parked the Chevrolet and headed toward Fifth Avenue. I was wearing 2 watches, Glenn continued. The first one showed the time of day, 7 hours and 4 minutes. The other showed the time remaining, 6 hours and 16 minutes. Glenn was snapping photos furiously, Martha reported. The laser on our camera raised suspicions, and a couple of guys tried to steal it. We used the stun guns and left them lying on the ground on Fifth Avenue. That caught the attention of a police officer on foot patrol. We knew we couldn't risk being arrested. We hid in a garage and implemented one of our prepared emergency plans. Our gear was reversible, he confessed. Minutes later, we reappeared on the scene like 2 clueless tourists, Martha explained. We had planned the route down to the last detail, and at 7:54 a.m., we arrived at Canal Street. We were 2 minutes ahead, Glenn specified. We knew you had entered the North Tower at 8:10 a.m., Martha said. Our plan was to approach you in the plaza between the 2 towers and ask you to take a photo. A button activated a message on the camera's viewfinder. The text of the message was very explicit, Glenn said. Your name is David Goodwill. You work in Whitehall. Your mother's name is Evelyn. We are Martha and Leroy. Don't come into work. Pretend to take the photo and join us. Trust us. We've traveled from the year 2033 to warn you. You came to us in the year 2029 thanks to Marco Polo. The last sentence was the most important, Jennifer pointed out. That day you already knew the maximum jump was 28 years. What happened? David asked. A friendly police officer happened to stand between you and us and offered to take our picture, Martha explained. I barely had time to press the button to make the message disappear from the camera viewfinder, Glenn added. It took 2 crucial minutes for us to fail. When he returned the camera, we saw you enter the North Tower. Disillusioned by our failure and no longer in a hurry, we began to retrace our steps. We walked up Church Street to its intersection with Lispenard Street. From there, we were able to see American Airlines Flight 11 impact live between floors 93 and 99 of the North Tower at 8:46 a.m. Everyone was looking toward the towers, but no one imagined what would happen at 9:03 a.m. in the South Tower. I was able to see the impact of United Flight 175 live from a window with John, David said, his head down. Both planes were fully loaded with fuel, Jennifer explained. Fear and chaos gripped everyone. We were no exception. The fall of the towers stunned us. We began to ascend Fifth Avenue. As we crossed 32nd Street, our nightmare began. The police had cordoned off the Empire State Building. We couldn't get to our car. It was 11:07 a.m. The wristband indicated a time limit of 2 hours and 13 minutes. The only solution to reach our goal was to walk. The subway wasn't running and the taxis had disappeared. We had no other option. We arrived at Central Park at 11:30 a.m. The wristband indicated a time limit of 1 hour and 50 minutes. We were on 59th Street and had to climb 116 blocks to reach 175th Street. I calculated it was almost 12 kilometers and that it was very unlikely we would make it. We also couldn't rent a car. Our cards weren't valid. At 11:45 a.m., my watch alarm went off. The wristband indicated a time limit of 1 hour and 35 minutes, and the 2 of us had just reached 77th Street. We had climbed 18 blocks in 15 minutes. There were 95 minutes left to climb the remaining 98 blocks. It was almost impossible to achieve. I knew what he was thinking, Martha chimed in. We continued walking north, paying attention to everything, but just as we reached 96th Street, the unexpected happened. A van almost hit me, and I twisted my ankle trying to avoid it. I tried to keep going, but the pain increased with every step I took. Martha intentionally stopped her story, only to continue a few moments later, saying, And now comes the time when the eminent professor Dr. Denver is transformed into the fearless and unpredictable Leroy. I acted without thinking, Glenn explained. Our situation was complicated. I saw a car with its doors open parked in front of Mount Sinai Hospital. I lied to her and told her we were going to the hospital. As we passed the car, I pushed her inside. I climbed in through the driver's side and started the car. I protested, but he ignored me, Martha confessed. I ended up accepting the situation because I was in so much pain. I drove very cautiously so as not to arouse suspicion. I ascended Frederick Douglass Boulevard without any problems, but at the intersection with 132nd Street, 2 vehicles pulled up and parked on either side of our car. I was really scared, Martha said. I intended to turn left, but they wouldn't let me. On one of my attempts, I broke their right headlight. That infuriated them, and they threatened us. We reached 141st Street, but I couldn't turn either. I looked at my watch. The time limit was only 44 minutes and 21 seconds. From the car on my left, they continued threatening us. I decided to take a chance and slammed on the brakes. They tried to do the same, but the car on my left skidded and collided with another parked vehicle. I only had the right one left, and I needed to keep it on that side so I could turn onto 155th Street. I accelerated full throttle and reached 150th Street with a 10-meter lead when I heard a noise from inside the car. I lifted a lid and a radio station appeared. What we heard chilled both of us. We had stolen an unmarked police car. The damn GPS of that era indicated our position. Frederick Douglass Boulevard, between 153rd and 154th Streets. We reached 155th Street, and I parked the car almost at the corner of Amsterdam Avenue. We got out of the car and went into a doorway, kissing like 2 lovers to hide our distance. While we were kissing, I looked at the display on my wristwatch. 0 hours, 30 minutes, and 48 seconds. The police soon arrived and headed our way. They asked us if we had seen anyone get out of the car. I replied no, but Martha told him she had seen a man wearing a yellow cap get out of the car. The police officer thanked us. We watched as 2 of his colleagues were trying to take fingerprints for later identification. We laughed a lot at the thought that the fingerprints obtained belonged to 2 people who hadn't even been born yet. The remaining time was only 27 minutes and 14 seconds. We had 16 blocks left to climb, and Marta couldn't get moving. When we reached 162nd Street, the display showed 23 minutes and 10 seconds. We had spent more than 4 minutes on 3 blocks. As we crossed 163rd Street, we saw a hospital canopy. Under the sign were 3 wheelchairs. No one was watching. In less than 10 seconds, I was running with Martha sitting in one of them. When we crossed 169th Street, the display showed 13 minutes and 20 seconds. We only had 6 blocks left. We reached 175th Street when the display showed 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Everything seemed fine, but when we were only 20 meters away from entering the house, a man appeared with a gun in his hand. He demanded that we give him the money, the jewelry, and the watches. We looked at each other for a couple of seconds, Martha explained. And then it happened, Glenn said. What happened? David asked, very intrigued. We have no idea where it came from, but at that moment our guardian angel appeared. A runner wearing a tracksuit and a black hoodie appeared out of nowhere and punched the assailant, knocking him off his feet and causing him to lose his gun, Martha explained. We took advantage of the confusion and went inside. We went down to the basement and pressed our watches. The display showed 1 minute and 18 seconds, Glenn said. That was a close call, wasn't it? David said, raising his glass of bourbon in a toast. We'll never know who that runner was, Martha said. That's right, Glenn confirmed. We were lucky at the decisive moment, even though Martha can't claim her right to be listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. What do you mean? David asked. Martha injured her ankle on September 11, 2001, and it didn't heal until mid-August 2033. Almost 32 years later. The final toasts brought the bourbon gathering to a close around 5 a.m. Chapter 9. Jersey City, Sunday, February 22, 2043. The late end of the bourbon meeting delayed the actual start of the day. Little Evelyn was clearly showing her impatience. Your behavior isn't fair, Jennifer told her. You have to accept that you're still a teenager. We've all been through this, but I had. The little girl tried to protest. Let me cut you off, Jennifer intervened authoritatively. Right now, the 2 of us are alone, and I want to take this opportunity to tell you something. Okay, Mom, Evelyn agreed. I know you need answers, but I'm proud of questions. The mere fact that you're even asking a question implies that you have a concern, and that's what matters. Am I going to spend my life asking questions? Evelyn wanted to know. Life is full of questions. Our existence is full of them. Who are we? Where did we come from? Why are we here? Are we alone in the universe? Are there more universes? Oh, Mom, that's cheating, the little girl exclaimed. And when can I ask you the question, Mom? She added. Wait until we're all together, Jennifer replied. The remaining trio soon appeared with steaming cups of coffee in their hands. Can I ask Dad now? Evelyn insisted. Jennifer nodded. Why can't I understand the theory of relativity? I've read it many times, and I don't fully understand it. The answer is very simple, David replied. You can't, because you still need to master several of its concepts. Some of them are tangible and measurable, but others are abstract and difficult to assimilate. I'll tell you an anecdote attributed to Einstein himself. It's said that one day, a famous journalist asked him to explain his famous theory in a way he could understand. Einstein wasn't fazed and made another request. Could you first explain to me how to fry an egg? The journalist, very surprised, replied yes. And that's when Einstein said, well, explain it to me, imagining that I don't know what an egg is, or a frying pan, or oil, or fire. Understood. Good answer, Dad. Now for the second one. Why is it always said that space-time is curved? Not just space, time, but space itself. The thing is, we're not used to thinking in large magnitudes. We focus our attention on magnitudes we can master. I'll give you an example that you'll quickly understand. Better, the young woman replied. If you draw a horizontal line on a piece of paper, then two perpendicular lines, one on each side. The two perpendicular lines will never meet, right? They won't meet because they're parallel, Evelyn confirmed. And if we repeat the example on a soccer field, we'll come to the same conclusion, right? David assured. The touch lines will always maintain the same distance between them, and will never meet, no matter how long the soccer field is, Evelyn confirmed. Correct. Now let's think big, David announced. Yes, Dad. The little girl agreed enthusiastically. Could you tell me what the equator is? David asked. It's the imaginary line that divides the Earth in two, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. It's also known as the zero parallel. Let's now imagine, for our exercise, that the two cities I'll tell you about are located on that line of the equator, and that the distance between them is 20 kilometers. Okay, Evelyn nodded. One is the city of Quito, on the American continent, and the other is the city of Singapore, on the Asian continent. Now, I want you to mentally draw an imaginary perpendicular line north from each of those two cities. That's it, Evelyn affirmed. You'll agree with me that those two perpendicular lines, drawn from the same horizontal line, should never meet. But nevertheless, David intentionally remained silent for a few moments. They're going to meet at the North Pole, Evelyn confirmed after a few seconds. And why do you think this happens? David insisted. Because the space in which we conducted the experiment is not flat but curved, Evelyn replied. Our galaxy and our universe are also curved, Jennifer added. We've never been able to go anywhere in a straight line because everything is always in motion, Martha pointed out. And the same thing that happens with the macrocosm is also true of the microcosm of a cell or the internal structure of an atom, Glenn pointed out. Evelyn adored her father. His explanations had been master classes. She decided it was time to ask her mother. Why did you name me Evelyn and not Thelma, like your mother? The question took everyone by surprise. Jennifer swallowed, moistened her lips, and answered, Your father and I were only together for 2.5 months before he decided to return to the year 2001. I named you after his mother so I could possess more of him. And that's how I've always explained it to you. Hasn't it, little one? Yes, Mom. I just wanted you to repeat it in front of everyone. You're a sweetheart, Evelyn, Jennifer said, hugging her daughter. David soon joined in. Glenn, part of trio. Martha, part of trio. Martha was bawling her eyes out. Glenn was constantly clearing his throat, trying to vent his emotions in a dignified and inconspicuous way. David soon joined in. Evelyn standing. Chapter 10. Jersey City, Thursday, March 4, 2043. Dr. Newman had just returned from a symposium. David didn't hesitate to contact him. How was the symposium in Paris? Too long, the surgeon replied. But tell me, what do you need from me? I need to learn the basics of your bracelet technique. Could you come over for lunch next Sunday? My daughter Evelyn has a birthday party and will be out of the house all day. In that case, I have another suggestion, said Newman. Since you and Jennifer will be free, why don't you both come over to my house? Wouldn't that be too much trouble for you? Today is Thursday, so I have plenty of time to surprise you. You can come over at 1:00 p.m. And after lunch, I'll update you on the bracelets. See you Sunday, said David. Jennifer happily accepted Newman's idea. To give herself more time, he allowed Evelyn to stay overnight at her friend Claire's house. She knew that scientific debates only had a start time. The end was unpredictable, and depended on 1,001 factors. Jersey City, Sunday, March 7, 2043, 3:0 p.m. The meal at Dr. Newman's house was an exquisite carousel of contrasts, topped off with sublime desserts. Scotch or bourbon? Asked Frederick Newman. Bourbon, the guests responded in unison. Well, with your permission, I'll go for Scotch. That's what those damn Europeans have. They always end up instilling their customs in you. I suggest we grab the drinks and go down to my lab, Newman finally suggested. It's fine with me if we also take the dessert tray, a smiling Jennifer agreed. Newman spent the first 2 hours explaining, teaching, and documenting all his experiments leading up to the concept of the wristwatch project. How many transducers are we talking about? David asked. In number or type? Newman wanted to know. I'm interested in both answers, David clarified. The latest model has 73 transducers. That's 11 more than the model used, first by Martha and Glenn, and then by Jennifer. How do they interact with each other? David continued. The initial energy is captured by 7 electrochemical transducers from the wearer's epithelial tissues. The 32 electromagnetic transducers form a linear chain in geometric progression that multiplies the value of the initial energy by more than 1,000,000. Finally, the remaining 34 transducers leverage the principles of magnetostriction and generate a very high-frequency vibration that fosters helical anisotropy, allowing for a time-based shift. Without risk? David asked. Risks always travel with us, Newman acknowledged. What new features will the new version have? David wanted to know. My main goal is to increase the dwell time. I need to make it stable enough to achieve 24 hours. What do you need to stabilize? Jennifer asked. It's a frequency filtering issue. I want to eliminate the danger of texture blurring. I understand you want to avoid cellulomolecular aliasing, Jennifer said. That's right. We need to increase bipolar vibration, but not overdo it, to avoid misalignment. And if we overdo it, what would happen? David asked. Well, the traveler would never reach their destination, Dr. Newman clarified. Even worse, Jennifer chimed in. The traveler would disappear from our temporal plane and never be able to materialize anywhere else. Would it be a cosmic death by disintegration? David suggested with a look of disappointment on his face. Define it however you want, but it would be definitive death, Jennifer confirmed with Newman's implicit agreement. Chapter 11. Jersey City, Wednesday, March 17, 2043. I'd like to try the wristwatch, David said. I don't have one. Newman is the only one who can reset them. You'll have to contact him, Jennifer recommended. David sat down at the computer. As he was about to make the video call to Newman, he heard footsteps and a figure appeared in the doorway. My goodness. What a wonderful surprise, he exclaimed. I don't have much time, David, Howard Moore explained. I've scheduled a 20-minute time jump. My health doesn't allow me to extend it any further. I'm at your disposal. What do you want, my friend? First, let's check which of my 2 theories was correct. Fortunately, I see it was the one I wanted. Please explain, David asked. I assume they delivered my letter to you upon your return. You're guessing correctly, and I admit I was impressed, David affirmed. I hope you'll forgive me, even though my presence here today will reveal to you that I cheated. I beg your forgiveness. You're forgiven, but tell me. I was the only one who knew you'd try to cheat. That's why I can't forgive myself for not taking it into account. Do you mean trying to save John Carpenter? Indeed, Howard nodded. What day exactly did you return, David? December 13, 2032. The aforementioned replied. That's the information I'll give everyone, although I'll disguise it by adding a few days margin before and after. What day is today for you, Howard? David wanted to know. Today is Saturday, May 22, 2032, Howard replied. For health reasons, this will be my last jump. I beg you, from now on, to come see me. I have a lot to tell you, and I can only tell it to you. I don't trust anyone else. Do it before I die. You should already know the date of my death, because if I'm here without any double presence problems, it's because it's already happened. I just ask that you never tell me that date. That's why you shouldn't worry, David confirmed. See you soon, friend. Take care. There's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing around here, he added seconds before disappearing. David remained thoughtful and silent. He also decided he wasn't going to tell anyone about Howard Moore's visit. Evelyn returned from school and went up to see her father. I made a decision today, Dad, she said when she saw him. I think today is a good day to make decisions. Why do you say that, Dad? Evelyn asked. Feelings and nothing but feelings, David replied. Do you want to know what my decision was? Of course I do, David agreed. I've decided that you and I should have a secret code to communicate. We just have to write the words with all their letters in reverse order. That's very simple, Evelyn. Anyone could deduce it, David objected. I haven't finished yet, Dad, the little girl protested. My complete proposal is to alternate our initials. The first initial in the second position and the last initial in the second to last position. Can I suggest a change? David said. Of course you can, Dad. That's why it is and will always be our code. If I were a stranger, I would be surprised that the second and second to last letters were always the same. I suggest they be random letters. Remember that only you and I know that we have to eliminate them. Evelyn got to work and wrote a sample. Now it's perfect, she said when she finished. What's perfect? Jennifer asked upon arriving. It's a secret, Mom, the little girl replied. You two are full of promises and secrets. And you, David, spoil her too much, Jennifer asserted. David just smiled in response. Chapter 12. Jersey City, Friday, March 19, 2043. David called Frederick Newman and asked what time he could pick up 2 wristbands. Around 8 p.m. Not before, Frederick replied. I have 1 wristband available, but I need to reset the other. David arrived at Newman's house at the appointed time. How are you, Frederick? He asked by way of greeting. I'm fine, and everything you asked for is ready too. Just a couple of recommendations, Newman added. The wristband with the brown strap lasts the usual 7 hours. Don't rush the jump time. The other one, the one with the black strap, has 2 very special extra features. The first is that I've added this green button with the option to reset the clock during the first 2 hours of the jump. I understand I can have 9 hours, David said. Not exactly. You'll only have 7 more hours after you press the button. That's clear, David agreed. The second feature is this black button, and it only affects the traveler's location. Can you give me an example so I can understand it better? It's an emergency exit that allows you to escape from one place and appear in another, if you've previously chosen the safe location. All of this without changing the time plane, David wanted to know. Indeed, Newman confirmed. The experiences of Martha, Glenn, and Jennifer advised me to create that escape route. My advice would be to set the safe location by pressing that orange button shortly after making the jump. Can the escape location be reprogrammed? David asked. As many times as you want, and this little green LED tells you if your current position is operational. Of course, the safe location must not be occupied by anyone. I deduce that it's best to forget about the 2 extra features of the black strap bracelet, David opined. I agree with you, but don't forget them completely, just in case you need them, Newman admitted and advised. David returned to Jennifer's house and asked for the exact date of Howard Moore's death. Jennifer checked with Martha and confirmed that Howard died on Saturday, October 10, 2037, at 10:00 a.m. David checked that the last entry in Howard's death letter was dated June 17, 2037. That leaves me a 3.5-month window to choose a date I can visit him, David said. I'll come with you, Jennifer said. Don't be offended or angry, but I'm going alone. The day before yesterday, Howard paid me a 20-minute visit. His delicate health didn't allow for more time. He asked me to visit him alone because he had a lot of things he could only tell me. Today I visited Newman, and he gave me 2 bracelets. One of them had special extra features. David explained the new buttons to Jennifer. Honestly, it wouldn't have been a bad idea to have that change of location when those 4 thugs attacked me, Jennifer admitted. Do you think Howard suspects someone? She asked. I don't know, but I have to find out. You know I have a lot of doubts about the dissolution of the Rainbow Travelers, David explained. What's bothering you? Jennifer persisted. The organization dissolved with 8 votes in favor and 7 against, when its bylaws required a minimum of 13 votes in favor. How do you know about the 13 votes on the bylaws? Jennifer asked. Glenn told me about it one night when Dean Devlin was pressured and threatened by Scott Evans, David replied. And the 8-7 vote? Jennifer continued. Uncle Sam told me about it, with all the details of who voted for and who voted against, David confessed. I think you need answers too, Jennifer admitted. Chapter 13. Jersey City, Wednesday, April 1, 2043. David had planned a leisurely visit to Howard, following Jennifer's advice. After an intense debate, the chosen date was Sunday, July 26, 2037, at 11:00 a.m. I'll be back before Evelyn gets home from school, David said. I won't leave the house. Today is my day off. Let's check that you have everything, Jennifer said. Set the departure and return coordinates pointing to the attic of this house, David said, looking at his bracelet. Check that you have the questionnaire and the address of the house Howard was living in that day, Jennifer asked. Checked, David confirmed. I'll be waiting for you. Don't make me suffer any more than necessary. Don't worry, I won't, he said, heading toward the attic. Jennifer remained in the main hall. When the vibration stopped, she looked at her watch. It was exactly 9:58. She went up to the attic and checked that no one was there. Jersey City, Sunday, July 26, 2037. You've been a long time, David. Howard said when he saw him appear. I was afraid you wouldn't make it in time. How are you feeling, Master? David asked. In the final stretch, the engineer, theologian replied. What did you want to tell me, Howard? What are you trying to warn me about? It's not easy to explain, Howard acknowledged. It's a mixture of doubts and concerns about everything that happened the day you returned to 2001. And what happened afterward, he added. Doubts and concerns don't bode well, David said. My main question centers on Scott Evans. Do you think you saw him at some point? I had the feeling I saw him coming up the stairs of the North Tower, but then he suddenly disappeared under the crowd. Did you say you saw him disappear? Howard asked. But you can assure me that during your first experience you didn't see him at all. I didn't see him the first time, David answered emphatically. Well, allow me to paraphrase the Apollo 13 crew when they said, Houston, we have a problem. Why? David asked, bewildered. In 2001, Scott must have been about 13 or 14 years old. The double presence absorbed him and put him in a loop. Do you mean he had to relive his entire life? He had to live it all until the moment he could decide for the second time to travel back in time. At that point, he changed his destiny and traveled to the future. Someone must have helped him, David clarified. Indeed, he or they tried to sabotage your return. But John's unexpected presence didn't allow it. I can assure you that his presence saved your life. I really didn't expect this, David confessed. That's why I say we have a problem, Howard said again. Scott managed to escape his loop and traveled to the future. Scott is a purist, and that worries me a lot. What do you think he might try? David asked. I don't know, but a purist always tries to rearrange the pieces according to their own rules. I'm just warning you. Goodbye, Howard, David said, hugging his teacher. It was 6 p.m. when David entered Jennifer's house, went up to the attic, and pressed the red button on his bracelet. Jennifer noticed a vibration in the highest part of her house. She looked at her watch. The digits indicated 4 p.m. A couple of minutes later, David came downstairs and appeared in the main living room. How'd it go? She asked. I'm really thirsty, honey. Get me something to drink, and I'll tell you, he replied. Chapter 14. Jersey City, Thursday, April 2, 2043. At 2:00 a.m., Jennifer was still sitting on the couch. Her mind was reeling from what David had told her. Just after 3:00 a.m., she heard David approaching and asking, Are you awake? Yes, and I'm also very scared. I'm not ready for a group of acrobats to be able to enter and exit my existence at will. What do you think of Newman after what I've told you? Making it very clear that I'm against those organizations, I can't believe that Newman has done anything against me. I don't think I have any choice but to go talk to him, David said thoughtfully. You have to go talk to him, Jennifer confirmed. I think Scott is still trapped in his loop, David said. I've been here for over 4 months, and he still hasn't shown up. And keep in mind that I'm the one who violated his doctrine, and that makes me the beneficiary of the transgression, Jennifer said, looking stunned. And the worst part is, he's putting the same label on Evelyn, David said. Do you think we should warn her? Jennifer asked. I want to talk to Newman first. I'll go see him on Saturday as a surprise. I want him to tell me everything he knows. I don't think he did anything against you, either. But maybe someone. Who do you suspect? Jennifer wanted to know. You know, I have some misunderstandings about Patrick Emmerichs from the information Uncle Sam gave me. I hope Newman's explanations will clear up my doubts. Jersey City, Saturday, April 4, 2043. Hello, David. I wasn't expecting you, Newman said, as he opened the door. Did you go see Howard? He asked afterward. Yes, and that's the main reason for my visit. I apologize, but I'll get straight to the point, thank you. I'll try to be as concise as I can. Did you get to know Scott Evans? No, Frederick Newman replied. Do you know who I'm talking about? David insisted. Of course I do. He's the traveler who was sent to 2001 to help you. Were you present at the Rainbow Travelers meeting? No, I wasn't at that meeting. Dean and Glenn came to see me afterward. They asked if I had a working prototype. I replied yes and offered it to them. I knew your gait for obvious reasons. I could see that you had accomplished your mission when I performed the next surgery on Jennifer, Newman explained. But the bracelet Scott used was only a prototype that had never been used before, David objected. I had successfully tested it on more than 20 jumps. I explained that the maximum jump time was 2 hours. I told them that was more than enough time, and they accepted. And the next day Scott Evans left with the bracelet. That's what they told me, Frederick Newman confirmed. And he never returned, David said. That's what they told me too, the surgeon confirmed. And which explanation do you think is more plausible? The loop or the change of direction toward the future? I've already told you I didn't know Scott, Newman recalled. And what do you think Scott did? David insisted. I think Scott decided not to return and stayed. Scott Evans was a genius in cybernetics. He went back to university and expanded his knowledge. Furthermore, He had in his hands a prototype bracelet almost 30 years ahead of when I conceived it. I'm sure that, today, Scott has the most sophisticated time travel system in existence. And why doesn't he let himself be seen? David asked. He's waiting for his moment, Newman ventured. His moment for what? David asked again. I don't know. Only he knows his plans. I just want you to know that I don't regret anything. Everything I did for Jennifer and for you. Did someone trick me? I don't know, and I don't care. I did what I thought was right, and I'll do it again, Frederick Newman concluded. I admit I would have done the same thing, David finally admitted. Chapter 15. Jersey City, Saturday, April 25, 2043. Jennifer felt very lonely. Evelyn was at Claire's house, and David seemed stuck in the attic. We could take advantage and go out to eat, she suggested. Fine by me, David reacted. If you want, I'll call Martha and Glenn to join us. I'd like to be alone with you, David, Jennifer said. I want to walk by your side and talk. I want to make sure you're still letting me have your right side. I want to soak up the atmosphere of the village. I want to decide where we eat at the last minute. I need to feel my internal batteries recharge. All this means is you're nervous and worried, he said. If you know me so well, why are you still up here like an ascetic? Jennifer argued. Because I need to find my answers too. My existence has been anything but normal. I'll give you just a couple of examples, David said. One day I said goodbye to my mother, and just 48 hours later, I discovered she'd been dead for over 15 years. And if you'll allow me, I'll give you another, much happier example. One night, I found out my partner was pregnant, and a few days later I was able to meet my daughter, who had already turned 12. You'll agree that the least I owe myself is to try to find explanations. I understand you perfectly, Jennifer admitted. What I'm not so sure about anymore is whether you understand me. I owe you, Jennifer. My only obsession is to make up for everything you've had to go through during my absence, David confessed. Well, I need to get out of the house and fly. I want to feel the air caress my face. I want to smell the spring and breathe in its magic. Well, let's not talk about it anymore, David declared. Am I dressed up, or do I need to wear something else? You look perfect like that, she said. New York, Tuesday, May 12, 2043. David arrived at the Denver's house at 10:00 a.m. Glenn opened the door for him. Why did the Rainbow Travelers dissolve by 8 votes to 7, when you yourself told me 13 votes were needed? The simple answer is that their bylaws were changed. And the complicated one? David insisted. Well, Ralph Kingsley pulled a fast one on us. He pulled an innocent proposal out of his hat, and 10 days later, disaster struck in an unexpected way. What day did Emmerichs die? David continued. November 23, 2039. I remember it was a Wednesday. When did he get sick? The first I heard about his illness was a few months after Howard's death. Apparently, he became very radical and despotic. Are you planning to visit him? Glenn asked. I want to show him the document in which he defines me as the transgressive traveler, David informed him. I already told you I have many reservations about the authenticity of that document, Glenn recalled. Do you want me to accompany you? He asked next. Thank you, but I'd rather go alone. I don't want to condition his answers with your presence. What period would you recommend for the visit? It would be best if it were after Howard's death and before his last year of life so you don't find him too jaded and dejected. Thank you, Glenn, David said as he said goodbye. Chapter 16. Jersey City, Wednesday, August 5, 2054. The last 2 rehearsals have been a success. The moment I've been waiting for has arrived. Life must be lived to the fullest. Out there, somewhere, there's someone who owes me, and I know where to find them. Besides, I was taught that debts are never forgiven. That's why debts must always be collected. Chapter 17. Jersey City, Wednesday, May 20, 2043. Jennifer and Evelyn returned home almost at the same time. I need to talk to Dad about something, the little girl announced. Am I that unimportant? Jennifer protested. You're jealous, Evelyn said, jumping up and down in the kitchen. I'm going to tell Dad, she added, spinning around. No way, sweetie. I'm not letting you leave the kitchen unless you promise not to tell your father. I promise, Mom. But it's a shame because it was so much fun, the little girl stated before leaving the kitchen. Do you know what we talked about in class today? Evelyn said hurriedly, as she entered the attic. Good afternoon, Evelyn. Good afternoon, Dad. Do you know what we talked about in class today? She repeated. That's much better. Surprise me. David finally agreed. Today we talked about quasars, said the little girl. They're the most distant visible particles in our galaxy. And you know they're young when they're constantly changing luminosity. Then she explained that no object can change at a speed greater than the speed of light. And finally she asked us what would happen if an object were capable of doing so. Only I raised my hand, Evelyn announced excitedly. And what was your answer? David asked. That object would be invisible, Evelyn affirmed. Wow. David shouted as Jennifer appeared. What's going on here? The newcomer asked. Well, your daughter just took the exam for a chair in astrophysics. My daughter? Lately, she seemed more like your daughter than mine. You're jealous, David exclaimed, amidst Evelyn's laughter. No more laughter, no more promises, no more secrets. Let's all have dinner, Jennifer ordered. After dinner, when Jennifer went to bed, David was waiting for her, sitting with the light on. I need to talk to you about Frederick Newman. Tell me, she agreed. I didn't say anything to you yesterday, but I spoke with Newman. I told him I already had a date to visit Patrick Emmerich's, and surprisingly he advised me to wait 2 more months. He argued that they were 2 trips close together. I asked him if he could give me a compelling reason for it. But he couldn't give me one, and claimed it was just advice. I had the feeling he was just trying to delay my visit. What are you planning to do? Jennifer asked. I need answers to cement my current position. I want to be sure that neither you nor Evelyn are in danger. I need to know that every time I fall asleep, when I wake up, you'll still be by my side. And what day have you chosen to visit Patrick Emmerich's? Next Thursday, June 4th, David replied. Chapter 18, Jersey City, Thursday, June 4, 2043. What date have you chosen as your destination? Jennifer asked. Wednesday, September 15, 2038. It'll still be over a year until Patrick's death. Don't pester him. Let Patrick explain himself freely. Jennifer recommended. It's time to go. It's 9:55 a.m. I'm going to the attic. I'll leave at 10:00 sharp. What time will you be back? I'll be back before 5:00 p.m. I'll arrive before Evelyn gets home from school. Aren't you going to use the green overtime button? In principle, no. But if you see I'm running out of time, take Evelyn out of the house. Will you use the black button option? I don't think so, but it's a resource I'm not going to give up. I'm glad to hear you're not ruling it out, Jennifer said. She had respected David's decision, but desperately hoped this would be his last timeless trip. Jersey City, Wednesday, September 5, 2038. David quickly noticed the change in temperature. He had chosen the same arrival time as his departure. On the way to Emmerich's house, he entered the wooded part of the cemetery adjacent to Walden Avenue and pressed the orange button to set the security coordinates. He arrived at Patrick's house at 10:41. Patrick was the one who opened the door. Follow me to the library. No one will bother us there, he added. How are you feeling? David asked when he reached the place Patrick had indicated. I'm reluctant to admit what's happening to me. I need to talk to you, Patrick. I imagine that's what you came here for. I didn't know you were back. Actually, I haven't done it yet. My return will take place in 4 years and 2 months. I'm here because I traveled from the future. Wow. You never cease to amaze me, Patrick said. Why did you send Scott to help me? David asked. It was a unanimous decision of the council. Howard informed us of your trip and made a request. Scott volunteered, and it was approved. You don't believe me? Patrick asked, seeing David's face. I have evidence to the contrary, David replied, handing him the minutes of March 21, 2030, signed by Patrick Emmerichs himself. It's completely false, Patrick stated after reading it. I assure you I didn't write it. It could be a trap to get you to come see me. A trap? David asked, completely bewildered. I always maintain that things don't happen by chance. I think someone went to a lot of trouble to make sure you were here today, Patrick declared. Just then, the library door opened, and Helen, Patrick's wife, announced, the person you've been waiting for has arrived. Chapter 19. Scott, David and Patrick exclaimed in unison. Today is going to be a great day, said the newcomer. I've been waiting for this day for many years. I even feel like I've repeated more than one. David surreptitiously removed the protective cover from the black button. Right now, your wife is immobilized. Nothing will happen to her if you cooperate, Scott Evans reported to Patrick. David decided it was time and pressed the black button, but nothing happened. He pressed it again, but still got no response. Free information for David, Scott announced. Stop pressing the black button. Your escape route isn't clean, and it won't be clean. Are you crazy? What are you planning to do? David exclaimed. If you hurt Jennifer or my daughter, you'll pay. Calm down, Scott demanded, pulling out a stun gun and delivering a stun gun to David and another to Patrick. I'm not interested in those two. I won't hurt you two either. I'm just going to put you back in the right place. Now, I'll activate you, so you can only talk and ask questions. What happened to you, Scott? David immediately asked. I saw you on the steps of the North Tower. I could see you too, but a second later, I found myself pedaling alongside my father, going to pick the first grapes from the vineyards. The double presence absorbed you, David confirmed. Exactly, Scott Evans confirmed. I returned to the age of 15, but retained all my memories and all my knowledge. Did you falsify the record of March 21, 2030? Patrick wanted to know. I had no other choice, Scott confirmed. But enough of empty talk. Now I'll tell you what I'm going to do with you two. But first I'll leave you in silence again. I don't want any inappropriate expressions. I'll remove David's bracelet and replace the escape coordinates with those of his attic. But before sending it back, I'll hang a tag with this message. Game over. Regarding you, Patrick, I'll inoculate you with an extra dose of the viruses responsible for your arthritis. I won't do anything to your wife. She'll have enough to put up with. And after you two, all that's left to do is deal with the third misplaced piece on the board. Dr. Frederick Newman, Scott said solemnly. In this case, I'm inclined to pretend that one of his experimental guinea pigs will bite him, with fatal results for the distinguished doctor. Now, David, I ask for your patience while I take care of those old guys. I'll be back to deal with you later, Scott informed him. Chapter 20. Scott returned to David's side and activated his speech. What did you do to them? He managed to stammer. They're sleeping. They'll continue like this for 2 hours. They're getting older and need to rest. Did you give him the extra dose of the virus? David asked. No, but he believed it. That's enough. And what are you going to do to me? David asked again. I'm just going to put you back in place, David. I don't want to start from square one, because I don't wish you any harm. Those were years with a high postpartum mortality rate. I chose 3 a.m. on Monday, December 11, 1972. You'll be 4.5 years old again. Your original presence will absorb you. At that age, you won't remember anything you've experienced. You'll start almost from scratch. You'll have to study again and work hard to pass. We'll see how far you can go. This time, how will you do it? David wanted to know. With this new toy developed especially for you. Am I that important? David questioned. You're the centerpiece of the board. You're the piece that determines the rest of the pieces. Will you take me back to 1972? I've hidden the jump mechanism in this Captain America shield I've pinned to your chest. You'll see how it works. The time has come, Scott said. And what will you do? David asked. Take care of the third element, and then disappear. I confess I'm very tired, and when I've completed my mission, I'll have nothing left to live for. That sounds very grim, David said. It sounds like a farewell. I wish you the best of luck, David, Scott said, pressing the central star on Captain America's shield. Chapter 21. New York, Monday, December 11, 1972. 3:0 a.m. Mom, it's so dark. I'm scared. Evelyn Goodwill woke up and ran to her son's room. It's okay, David. I'm sure you were dreaming. What's he wearing around his chest? David's father asked. It's Captain America's shield. I bought it for him this afternoon. Evelyn lied to avoid fruitless arguments at night. Well, you're taking it off. I don't want it wrapped around his neck. You spoil him too much, Jeff said. He's just a boy, Evelyn asserted, defending herself. He has to learn to defend himself without your help. If he doesn't, he'll be a weak man when he grows up. We have a very intelligent son, and he'll be a good man when he grows up, Evelyn Goodwill explained. Look, he's already gone back to sleep. Let's go back to bed before the alarm clock rings. Tomorrow starts a new work week, Jeff said. He must have had a bad dream, Evelyn Goodwill said. Chapter 22. Jersey City, Thursday, June 4, 2043. Where's Dad? Why isn't he coming? Evelyn asked. I don't know, and I'm starting to get really worried, Jennifer said. Let's go home. Jennifer entered the house and started up the stairs to the attic, but stopped short. I'll go up, Evelyn said determinedly. 2 minutes later, she came down with the bracelet and the game over tag. Does this mean anything to you, Mom? She asked. Does that mean we're alone again, Evelyn? Dad's not coming back, Jennifer declared, crying. Jersey City, Monday, June 8, 2043. Jennifer heard the phone ring. The ringtone identified Martha as the caller. How are you, Jenny? Martha asked. I've had a terrible weekend. I'm lucky to have Evelyn. I'm afraid I have some bad news. Misfortunes never come alone, Martha anticipated. What happened now? Jennifer asked. Frederick Newman was found dead this morning. When is all this going to stop? Jennifer stammered. Wait a minute, don't hang up. There's a knock at the door. Who was it? Martha asked, as they resumed their conversation. They brought a package for David. Oh my God! The sender is Frederick Newman, Jennifer said. Evelyn returned from school as punctually as ever. Jennifer told her the sad news and the arrival of the package. What's in the package? Evelyn asked. I preferred to wait for you to open it, Jennifer confessed, as she separated the flaps of the cardboard box and found an envelope addressed to David. Evelyn opened it, took out a letter, and began to read it. Dear David, I have the feeling I'm being spied on. I don't want to make any phone calls because I think we're being listened to. I'm sending you 10 units of the latest model of bracelet. The 2 new features are 24-hour jump duration and the choice of departure and arrival points. You'll be able to use them much better than I can. Good luck, friend. Signed, Frederick. Too late, Jennifer said. Or perhaps too soon, Evelyn replied. Chapter 23. New York, Wednesday, August 19, 2054. It'll only be a few hours, Mom. I couldn't bear to lose you too, Jennifer affirmed. You won't lose me because everything will be fine, Evelyn said. Are you sure? Jennifer insisted. As sure as an astrophysics graduate who received a summa cum laude for presenting a revolutionary thesis on the curved intersection of temporal planes can be. I need you to repeat the plan to me, step by step. Using the second-to-last bracelet Dr. Newman sent us before he died, I will perform a time jump at 5:00 p.m. on Saturday, August 25, 2001. 10 minutes later, I will show up unexpectedly at Laura's apartment. I performed 5 jumps last week to become her friend. Laura will be making her first flight as a United Airlines flight attendant on the flight from Tampa to New York that Dad will take to return from his vacation. During my visit, I'll make her feel very ill, preventing her from boarding the plane. And you'll offer to replace her, Jennifer suggested. I'll comb my hair and dress in her uniform. No one notices a rookie, Evelyn explained. And you'll give Dad the chocolate bar with the message. Yes, because I know the seat Dad will be traveling in. He's in economy class, and on a non-refundable ticket. Veteran flight attendants always stay in first class. What if he eats it and throws away the wrapper without looking at it? I'll make sure he doesn't, Evelyn assured her. What if he saves it to eat at home? If he does that, you can be sure he'll read the message, Evelyn affirmed with crushing certainty. What will happen when you return? Jennifer wanted to know. If everything goes as I hope, when I return to this time and this plane, I won't be the same as I am now, and neither will you. Maybe I'll be surprised to find out I have a younger brother or sister between 18 and 20 years old, Evelyn speculated, and Dad won't have to leave our side. And he'll have watched you grow up day by day, enjoying every minute and every second of you, Jennifer affirmed, and our life will have been the way you deserve it, Mom. I confess that I'm afraid of one thing, Evelyn. What are you afraid of, Mom? That in that other life I didn't love you as much as I loved you in this one. I'm sure you did. I'm leaving, Mom. I'll come out from the attic. You promise me you'll come back. Yes, Mom. I'll come back to see you happy. Chapter 24. Tampa, Saturday, August 25, 2001. 5:00 p.m. Hi, Laura. I'm here to celebrate your baptismal flight. What time are you planning on leaving for the airport? In 25 minutes. Well, let's celebrate, Evelyn said. Where's the corkscrew and the glasses? In the top drawer of the kitchen and in the dining room cabinet. Evelyn poured the 2 glasses and poured into one of them the drops that would make Laura feel sick. The 2 young women toasted and drank every last drop. After 3 minutes, Laura began to vomit. I can't stand up, she said. I feel guilty. I'll go in your place. Nobody knows you, Evelyn said quickly. Would you really do this for me? Laura asked. Whatever it takes, Evelyn said. I'm so grateful. You're an incredible friend. Evelyn joined the rest of the crew, and they headed as a group toward the gate. On their way, they passed a passenger sitting waiting for his flight to be called. He looks unfriendly, one of them said. He looks like he's had a fight with his wife, another said. He didn't look like that to me. I'll bet 10 to 1 he's still single, the newbie affirmed with complete conviction. Chapter 25. Tampa, Saturday, August 25, 2001. 6:00. David Goodwill waited alone and silently. His gaze was vacant and unconcerned. David's face showed a pensive and absent expression. He was deeply immersed in himself and his thoughts. The announcement of his flight's departure was made over the loudspeakers. He got up and gathered all his belongings. He boarded the plane. He sat down, closed his eyes, and pretended to be asleep. The flight attendant's voice brought him back to the mortal world when she asked him if he would like dinner. He was about to turn his head without answering when he saw those deep, frightened black eyes. Something made him change his mind. They were black eyes that were familiar to him. Yes, thank you very much, miss, David replied. After dinner, David took the chocolate bar and put it in his pants pocket. His plane landed on runway number 2 at JFK in New York. After collecting his luggage, he took a taxi to his apartment in Brooklyn. Upon entering the house, Evelyn, his mother, asked him if he wanted dinner. David replied that he had already had dinner and quickly went to his room. There, he downloaded the data from his laptop to his computer. Thanks to quantum mechanics, David had managed to close the loop on his research. I got it, he exclaimed with glee, as he unwrapped the chocolate bar from the airplane and brought it to his mouth, leaving the paper wrapper on the table. He walked to his bedroom window and could see the moon shining, completely oblivious to his emotions. David stared at it for a few minutes in silence. Seconds later, without taking his eyes off it, he asked, Tell me, Moon, how long have you been there? He returned to the table and noticed that the chocolate bar wrapper seemed to have something written on the inside. He tried to read it but couldn't understand anything. His first reaction was to crumple it up and throw it in the trash. He did the first thing but stopped before doing the second. He decided to smooth the wrapper out again with his fingers. He checked it was whole and folded it in half. Then he put it in his pocket wallet. Chapter 26. New York, Monday, August 27, 2001. David arrived at the Whitehall offices early. He transferred the data from his laptop to Marco Polo. At 8:10 a.m., data appeared on the screen. At 8:30 a.m., John arrived. "Good Lord," he exclaimed. "You look like a damn sunburned window cleaner." Window cleaners have the perfect profession. They're in the sun. If it rains, they don't work. And no one can bother them because they're hanging from a fucking scaffold listening to music. "Shall we have lunch?" John suggested. "Okay," David finally agreed after a brief hesitation. "See you at 12:30 for lunch," he confirmed. "I'm interested in hearing your opinion on our California branch's conclusions regarding the Trockton affair." "I'll get on it right away," David said. The morning passed without much to report. At the agreed time, John rescued him to go eat at the restaurant on the 107th floor in the South Tower. After lunch, John tried to trick David into going for a few drinks in the village at the end of the day. "I can't today. I have to accompany my mother to the doctor," David lied, trying to be alone and finish obtaining the data from Marco Polo. John left at 6:00 p.m. "Don't stay too long," he said mockingly as he left. David took note of the results and returned home. "I have to calculate the ideal destination date. I have to find the transmission vehicle," he repeated over and over to himself as he walked through the crowd. Chapter 27. New York, Tuesday, September 4, 2001. David left Whitehall at 6:07 p.m. An inconsequential comment from John had monopolized his thoughts for the past 3 hours. "Thank goodness the chocolate brown color you wore on your face has disappeared from your face in just a week," John had said. Upon hearing this, David had only forced a smile. However, a reflex action had led him to place his hand on his wallet. From that moment on, David tried to recall the entire sequence of the dinner on the plane. His first conclusion was that there was no chocolate bar on his seatmate's dinner tray. This detail had exponentially increased his desire to decode and interpret the supposed message. When he got home, he greeted his mother, quickly went up to his room, and copied the message into a text document on his computer. He stared at it on the screen for a few minutes. In the end, he decided to choose the longest word. It was the third word on the third line. Snoit Kortsengi. He reversed the order of its letters and got instructions. The word was obviously incorrect, but it also proved to be highly illuminating. He eliminated the second and second-to-last letters and got instructions. He tried another word at random. He chose the last word on the last line, Archaeotokum. He reversed it to get Mkothak. He deleted the usual second and second-to-last letters. The result, Mother pointed the way forward. He copied and pasted the first line. He separately reversed the order of the 4 words and deleted the second and second-to-last letters. The result left him speechless. Message for David Goodwill. There was no longer any doubt. He, and only he, was the recipient of the message. He put aside his questions and deciphered the entire message. Message for David Goodwill. Look inside the new shaving lotion. Follow the instructions to the letter. I am your daughter, waiting to hug you. My name is Evelyn, just like your mother. If this is a joke, it's not funny at all, he thought, as 1,000 questions returned to his mind. A flash of flashback made him remember the image of his mother handing him a jar. He got up and went to the bathroom in his room. He opened the small cabinet where he kept his toiletries and quickly identified the bottle. He removed the wrapping paper and found it contained a message consisting of 40 small numbered messages. He read the first one. 1. Today is October 29, 2000. Lie, he exclaimed vehemently, before realizing that this must be the date his mother received the bottle. 2. Your name is David Goodwill. You work in Whitehall. Fuck. I didn't know I was so famous, he stammered. 3. Your secret dream is to travel through time. 4. You don't know it yet, but you've already achieved it. 5. We know you well, and we're your friends. 6. We're sending you this note from the year 2034. David began to tremble. No one knew what point 3 stated, and even more so, what value could he place on statements 4, 5, and 6. He had no choice but to continue reading. 7. The bottle has a false bottom. Open it. 8. Save its contents and memorize the instructions. David located the false bottom and picked up the bracelet. He was starting to feel in a daze when he resumed reading. 9. This bottle has been delivered by a traveler. 10. You don't know her, but you will meet her in the future. 11. She will be born on August 8, 2001 12. Her name will be Jennifer Bailey. 13. On Saturday, September 8th, 2001, she will fall ill. 14. She will be admitted to Greenville Hospital in Jersey City. 15. You may visit her in room 317. 16. Dr. Frederick Newman will be the surgeon. 17. You don't know him, but he will be a good friend in the future. 18. On Sunday, September 9, he will be at the hospital. 19. Mail him the bottom of this note. 20. Don't try to understand it. He will. 21. Little Jennifer will have black eyes. 22. Her mother will be with her at the hospital. David was hallucinating. He decided he would check items 11 and 12 and mail the note to that doctor, as indicated in item 19. David continued reading. 23. On September 11, 2001, something terrible will happen. 24. Do not go to work that day under any circumstances. 25. When it happens, you will understand. Don't be impatient. 26. Take advantage of the confusion that will ensue. 27. Go quickly to the following address. 28. St. Nicholas Avenue and W 175th Street. 29. Enter the Church of the Reincarnation. 30. Look for a key under the 5th pew on the right. 31. Go to number 575 W 175th Street. 32. Enter and go to the curtain on the outside window. 33. Remove the knob from the cord that operates it. 34. Remove the left light bulb from the wall sconce. 35. Insert the disassembled knob into the lamp holder. 36. The floor will open. Go down to the basement and close the floor. 37. Enter the room on the right and put on the bracelet. 38. Activate it and press the red button. 39. Oh, and don't send Popey like you're planning. 40. Bring Popey with you. We'll be waiting for you. For God's sake, David exclaimed. They know that too, he added, lying down on the bed. It was time to admit the obvious. The lotion had been in his closet for over 10 months. The chocolate bar had been a key element. Without it and its message, he would never have inspected the bottle. He looked at his watch. It was 2 minutes past 1 in the morning. There were only 6 days left until the announcement in point 23. The final conclusion of the 40-point message was a compendium of undeniable realities. And the final 2 points were a show of force to dispel doubts. Chapter 28. New York, Wednesday, September 5, 2001. David had left Popey at home, but he wasn't about to give up on his test, even though the plan was already different. He connected the backup transformer and caused a short circuit. This time, the resulting electric arc dragged along a wrench, a screwdriver, and 2 fuses. On the way down, he ran into Jack and informed him that it had all been a problem with the utility company. New York, Friday, September 7, 2001. At 6 in the evening, David put an end to the week's work. He took the subway as usual. An untimely power outage delayed his departure. He was tired and eager to hug his mother. Mom, remind me that I have to post a letter tomorrow. I hope the recipient understands what you're saying. Evelyn said. I hope so. The future I most desire depends on it, he replied. New York, Saturday, September 8, 2001. David told his mother he was going out to mail the letter and buy something symbolic to remember the day. He kissed her, opened the door, and mingled with the crowd. New York, Sunday, September 9, 2001. David took a taxi to Jersey City. He had to check if points 12 through 23 were correct. If they were, there was no turning back. He would follow the rest very strictly. A tingling sensation ran through his stomach as he walked through the door of Greenville Hospital and headed to room 317. He walked in without knocking, pretending he'd made a mistake. What's wrong with this precious girl? David asked. I'm her mother, and I'm very worried because tomorrow she's having heart surgery. The doctor decided to move the procedure up a day. It'll be okay, David assured her. Her eyes are closed, but I bet they're black. How did you know? Jennifer's mother asked. Good luck. I wish you all the best, David said as he said goodbye. As he left, he passed a young doctor, giving instructions to a group of nurses. David had dinner with his mother, and they talked until midnight. New York, Monday, September 10, 2001. The day passed without incident. In the afternoon, David called Dr. Newman and asked how the operation had gone. Newman replied that it had been a success and began asking him questions. David immediately hung up when he couldn't answer them. At the end of the workday, David invited John to have a couple of rounds in the village. John, stupefied, accepted David's proposal. They strolled to Kenny's on Bleecker Street. What's her name, David? John asked. I don't know what you're talking about, David replied. At least tell me if she has blue eyes. They're not blue, John. They're deep, beautiful black eyes. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you anymore. Okay, friend, John finally agreed. There's no need to insist when your heart is involved. The 2 promised rounds were followed by many more. John finished them off with a vodka, 2 bourbons, and a scotch. You've drunk too much. You can't drive, John. Where's your car? David asked. At the World Trade Center. Come with me there and then go home, John said. We'll go get your car, and I'll drive you home and talk to your mother. John's mother was very grateful that David hadn't let her son drive. Don't let him go to work tomorrow, Mrs. Carpenter. Tie him to the bed if necessary, David asked. How are you going to get home now? John's mother asked. I'll call a taxi, David replied. I have a better idea. Take John's car. This way we'll avoid him going to work tomorrow. I'll tell him to wait for you to pick him up. That's an excellent idea, Mrs. Carpenter, David agreed. David arrived home at 11:30 p.m. He had only drunk non-alcoholic drinks. His mother couldn't remember ever seeing him arrive so happy. Evelyn Goodwill was beaming with happiness. Tomorrow she would ask him more questions about his girlfriend. Now wasn't the best time. David retired to his room. His head was full of thoughts and feelings. Tomorrow was going to be a special day, but if he'd been advised not to go to work, he couldn't allow anything bad to happen to John. "I'm sorry, but I couldn't tell you anything, my friend," David whispered as he got into bed. Chapter 29. New York, September 11, 2001. David dressed as usual and packed a bag with workout clothes, put on his lotion bracelet, and put Popey in his shirt pocket. "Are you planning on going for a little exercise?" his mother asked. "Just in case I feel like it," David replied. "Goodbye, Mom. Take care. I love you so much," he said as he kissed her. David drove John's car to the World Trade Center. He parked it very close to where he had picked it up last night. He left the keys under the mat. At 8:10 a.m., he entered the North Tower, but didn't take the elevator. He went into the restroom and waited a couple of minutes. He left the building on the opposite side from where he had entered. He threw the bag with his regular clothes into a dumpster. It was 8:14 a.m. when he got into a taxi. "Take me to Central Park, in front of the Plaza Hotel," he asked. David was on the east sidewalk of Fifth Avenue when it happened. He didn't see the plane, nor could he hear the sound of the collision. He only saw the column of smoke from the North Tower. The announcement in the 23 item on the lotion note had just become a terrible reality. He was very glad he wasn't there. He thought of his mother. He called her, but she wasn't home. He turned his gaze back to the Twin Towers when a fireball appeared in the middle of the South Tower. "My God!" he exclaimed. "This is serious. It's more serious than I could have imagined." He called his mother again. He left a message saying he was okay. Immediately afterward, he called John at home. When he heard John answer, he hung up without a word. "I did it. John is safe," he said as he hung up. He began walking up Fifth Avenue. At 10:05 a.m., a noise made him turn his head. The South Tower had disappeared. A huge cloud of smoke had replaced it. A feeling of despondency took hold of his body. He kept walking, but his legs were giving out. He was crossing 79th Street when a second noise forced him to look back. It was 10:28 a.m., and he realized he was short of breath. He couldn't believe it. The North Tower had disappeared too. What had been his world for the past 6 years was no more. It took him several minutes to recover and continue. At 10:45, he was passing the Metropolitan. He mentally mapped out the route he would take. He was sure to have trouble in Harlem and the Bronx. He got rid of his cell phone card by splitting it in half. He did the same with his credit cards. He divided the pieces into more than 10 different containers. He threw his wallet and ID into a sewer. He threw away everything except the 2 packages containing his messages. He arrived at Mount Sinai at 11:07 a.m. He crossed 125th Street at 11:54 a.m. He had never climbed that high, much less alone. At 1:00 p.m., he entered the Church of Reincarnation. He searched and found the key under the 5th pew. When he left and headed toward his destination, he saw a couple being robbed by a man threatening them with a gun. He also noticed that she was limping noticeably. David didn't think twice. He pulled up his hood and attacked the assailant by surprise, causing him to lose his weapon. The couple seized the moment and escaped. David made sure the assailant couldn't retrieve his weapon and ran away without removing his hood. He made a detour, and when no one was looking, he used the key and entered 575 W 175 Street. He didn't have to remove the handle or unscrew the light bulb because the floor was already open. He went down to the basement and entered the room on the right. He made sure Popey was still in his pocket and stroked it. It was 1:28 p.m. when David pressed the red button on his wristband. Chapter 30. New York, Tuesday, September 11, 2029. "Are you sure he's coming?" Martha asked. "Absolutely," Glenn Denvers replied. "There are exactly 59 minutes left until he arrives." "What time is it now?" Howard Moore wanted to know. 12:33 p.m., Glenn replied. "We have enough time. Tell us everything that happened and what he told you." Glenn explained his 14-day jump into the future, which he made on the 5th of this month, and his surprise at finding a stranger talking to Uncle Sam. He said that the man greeted him normally upon seeing him, and that he later got him to explain everything again, using the excuse of having it recorded on Uncle Sam. Glenn gave a detailed account of the 2 messages, including the instructions and the scrupulous veracity of each and every one of them. Glenn later explained that he had asked him that day if he could see the messages, and that the stranger, very surprised, had replied that he didn't have them, but they were the same ones he'd already shown us, the day he arrived to myself, Martha, and the illustrious Howard Moore. "And indeed, here we all are," Howard declared. "Because I warned you," Glenn responded. "What does it matter? Who can say that before comes before after?" Howard toyed with the words again. "When I came back from that jump, my first intention was to tell Patrick and Dean everything. However, something made me call you first, and I advised you not to tell them anything. I'm glad you decided to listen to me," Howard confessed. "For some special reason?" Martha wanted to know. I want to check what he knows about Jennifer first. It seems to me that she's a key figure in this matter. My theory hinges on a fascinating axis, Howard added. It's 1:26 p.m., Glenn said. It should be about 3 minutes before he arrives. Please tell us your theory first, Glenn asked. I don't think this will be the first time David has reached us, Howard stated seconds before an intense vibration was heard from the basement. 3 minutes later, David appeared in the living room, where Glenn, Martha, and Howard were. Welcome, Glenn told him. I'm very thirsty. What year is this? The newcomer asked, as Martha went out to get a bottle of water. Sit down, David. We've been waiting for you, Howard said. Today is September 11, 2029, he reported next. Were you waiting for me? Did you send me the bracelet? David asked. The first answer is yes, and the second is no, Glenn replied. So why do you know my name? How did you know I was coming? David asked again. Howard stood up and asked for calm. I think it's time to introduce ourselves. My name is Glenn Denvers, and I have degrees in medicine, nuclear biology, and stratomolecular physics. My name is Martha Henderson, and I have a degree in structural biokinetics. It's my turn, Howard said. I'll start by saying that these two live together and make a wonderful couple. My name is Howard Moore, and I couldn't possibly say what I am. Howard Moore, David exclaimed, confessing to having read all of his articles and being excited about one titled Science in the Eyes of God. Martha and Glenn remained strictly silent, trying not to disrupt the chemistry that had developed. I think you're overestimating me, Dr. Goodwill, but I thank God for allowing me to experience this moment. You're still wearing the bracelet. Can we see it? Martha asked, approaching David. David took off the bracelet and handed it to her. I notice you're not limping anymore, he said. It's remarkable. A few minutes ago, you couldn't take a step without leaning on Glenn. Excuse me? The two jumped in unison. Have you forgotten? I just saved you from a mugging, and then I saw you enter this building. I'm sure it was you two. Us two, Martha and Glenn exclaimed again. Time, Howard asked, making the basketball sign. We need to calm down. We're facing an extraordinary and complex event. We need to open our minds. For now, let's put aside the topic of Martha's limp. Let's all sit down to hear Dr. David Goodwill's full version of the experience. First, I want to introduce you to Popey. He's been with me since birth. You could say we're an odd couple. He's cute, but we'll have to hide him, Martha said. About 15 years ago, they were declared carriers of a serious childhood illness. Well, we'll hide him, David said, beginning to recount his entire ordeal since returning from vacation in Florida. Surprising, Howard quickly acknowledged when David finished, so as not to let either Glenn or Martha speak. First, I'm going to ask David to use the familiar form of address with me, and I'll do the same with him. I'd be delighted. It will be a privilege, David agreed. I explained earlier that I have a theory that today isn't David's first visit to us. I don't know when the previous ones happened. All I know is that this is the only one we should care about because the succession of future plans will depend on it. David was stunned, but Howard's authority kept him listening silently. It's clear that both messages move in an environment familiar to us. The first is signed by Evelyn, David's future daughter, whom we obviously haven't met yet. However, we do know the names of the two people monopolizing the second message. I'm referring to Jennifer Bailey and Dr. Frederick Newman. That's true, Glenn Denvers confirmed. We all know now that Frederick Newman performed surgery on Jennifer when she was just a baby. What David doesn't know is that Newman had repeatedly expressed his regret at not being familiar with modern techniques at the time. That's true, Martha confirmed. He even told me that if he knew a way to fix it, he would do it. And what better way to do it than to write himself a series of instructions, Howard said. But Martha tried to object. We agreed that there are no buts today, Howard said. I was able to personally witness Dr. Newman and his team preparing Jennifer's surgery, David said. And were you able to find out anything else? Martha asked again. On Monday afternoon, September 10, 2001, I called him to find out how the surgery had gone. He assured me it had been a success. I hung up as he began to ask me questions. That closes the circle even further because I only know one person capable of designing a bracelet like this, Glenn stated. Jennifer has to see Newman in 2 weeks for her quarterly checkup, Martha informed her. We'll wait for the results and then decide. Absolute silence regarding David for now, Howard stated. What am I going to do in the meantime? David asked. You'll stay at our house. Martha has already prepared a room for you, Glenn informed him. I'm starting to get very tired, David said. Who will show me to my room? Myself, Martha offered. You haven't made up your mind about Jennifer's involvement in the second message, Glenn said to Howard when they were alone. I didn't want to do it in front of David. It wasn't relevant, Howard added, just as Martha returned to the living room. What wasn't relevant? Martha asked, getting back on track. Howard thinks Jennifer's involvement in the second message isn't relevant, Glenn explained to Martha. It's not relevant at all, because it's true, Howard reaffirmed. And what reason could she have had for doing what the messages imply she did? Glenn continued. I only know one, Howard replied. And I don't think I'm mistaken if I say Martha feels the same way. Glenn looked at Martha, waiting for a response. She looked at him with a smile and uttered the magic word, love. Jennifer would only act like that, out of love, she declared, completely certain she had guessed right. Chapter 31. New York. Wednesday. September 12, 2029. Howard showed up at Glenn's house at 10:00 a.m. Where's David? He asked. He's constantly asking questions about Uncle Sam, Glenn said. Yesterday I analyzed the paper and the writings, and nothing corresponds to what was used in the year 2000. This proves the messages came to him from the future. The one from October 2000 was delivered by Jennifer, and the one from August 2001 by her unborn daughter Evelyn, Glenn said. Evelyn, the daughter of David Goodwill and Jennifer Bailey. Howard Moore clarified. What do you think could have happened? Glenn asked. What happened is only important to know that it must never happen again. It doesn't matter if it happened in the future or the past. The only thing that's certain is that this game is ours alone, and we will play our cards skillfully to emerge victorious. And there won't be any more rematches? Glenn asked. If we play well, there won't be any, Howard stated emphatically. What should we do? Glenn continued. The first thing we need to do is leave the Rainbow Travelers, so we don't have to inform you of anything. It will surprise them, but on the other hand, more than one of they will be happy, and the light of light, without our presence, will dissolve on its own. Glenn ventured, before immediately asking, Will you speak to Frederick Newman? I will, but after the results, Howard confirmed. When will we introduce him to Jennifer? Glenn wanted to know. I'll leave that in your hands, but always after the results, Howard Moore pointed out. New York, October 18, 2029. David had been brought up to date with the help of Uncle Sam. He had also learned that his mother had breathed her last on the morning of April 4, 2014. He also learned that Whitehall had managed to survive, thanks to the help of the Western Branch. John Carpenter was the current Deputy Director General, and the California headquarters was in the hands of Gerald Campbell. David concluded his research and informed Uncle Sam that he was free to choose new topics for discussion. It will be a real pleasure, Uncle Sam had replied. New York, Friday, November 9, 2029. Aren't you planning on spending all day locked up here? Glenn asked. Of course not, David replied. In that case, I'm going to take you to a basic cyber culture conference. I'll be able to introduce you to some very interesting people, Glenn said. What concepts does this methodology cover? David asked. They're trying to prepare the population to be able to handle the new generation of automatons without problems. It will be magnificent, David admitted. By the way, remind me to teach you how to play freewheel tomorrow, Glenn asked. I'll remind you, David agreed. David was with Glenn when he saw her enter. Good afternoon, Dr. Denvers, she said. Good afternoon, Glenn responded. Allow me to introduce you to David Goodwill, Ph.D. in physics. Pleased to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you, she said, extending her hand. This is Jennifer Bailey, Glenn said. She's a renowned specialist in cybernetics and an authority on contemporary history. I'm sure you have a lot in common. She knows like no one else the events of September 2001, which also interest you so much, Glenn said with a smile. Don't exaggerate, Dr. Denvers, she said, trying to hide the wonderful feeling the touch of David's hand transmitted to her entire body. It's a true honor to meet you, Jennifer, David said, completely entranced by that wonderful pair of dark eyes. End of the second novel of the trilogy, A Past in the Future, by Francisco Zaragoza Esbrí.